They said it would never happen. They said the Queen's favorite son was untouchable. They said that a prince of the blood could never be evicted, never be humbled, and certainly never be forced to trade a 30-room palace for a rotting farmhouse next to a bog. But today, the impossible has become the inevitable. We are witnessing the brutal, slow-motion demolition of Prince Andrew's entire existence. The king has finally lost his patience, the velvet gloves are off, and the message being sent from Buckingham Palace is loud, clear, and absolutely terrifying for the Duke of York. The era of grandeur is dead, the era of entitlement is over, and what comes next is a humiliation so severe, so public, and so devastating that it signals the definitive end of Prince Andrew as we know him. We are not just talking about a house move, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about the total dismantling of a man's ego, brick by brick. We are talking about a king who is willing to siege his own brother out of a fortress to save the reputation of the crown. And the details of where Andrew is going or where he is being sent are shocking enough to make you gasp. It is a fall from grace that Shakespeare himself couldn't have written. From the manicured lawns of Windsor to the muddy reality of a working farm, this is the story of the year. Welcome back to the channel, the only place brave enough to tell you the ugly truth about the royal family, the only place where we don't sugarcoat the scandals, and we definitely don't protect the guilty. If you want the real story behind the headlines, the story the palace doesn't want you to hear, hit that subscribe button right now. We are diving deep into the real estate war that is tearing the Windsors apart. We have significant updates that paint a vivid, shocking picture of exactly where the king intends to exile his disgraced brother. It is a far cry from the royal lifestyle Prince Andrew has enjoyed for decades, and trust me, you are going to want to hear every single gritty detail. For months, we have been watching the siege of Royal Lodge. It has been a cold war fought behind closed doors. Prince Andrew has steadfastly refused to vacate the magnificent Windsor property that was once the beloved home of the Queen Mother. It is a residence steeped in history, a symbol of the old guard, and a fortress of privacy. It is 30 rooms of luxury. It has a private chapel. It has separate accommodations for staff. It sits on 98 acres of secluded grounds. It is a palace in all but name. And Andrew? He thinks it is his birthright. He thinks that because he signed a lease in 2003, he is entitled to sit there forever, while the paint peels and the roof leaks, ignoring the reality of his situation. But a new report has emerged that suggests the king's patience hasn't just worn thin, it has snapped. The king is done negotiating. The king is done asking nicely. A specific property has been identified as the Duke's next destination, and it is a slap in the face. According to explosive reports, the father of Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie could be packing his bags for a property known as Marsh Farm. Now, let us place this into context to truly understand the gravity of the insult. We are not talking about a lateral move. This isn't moving from one mansion to another slightly smaller mansion. This isn't downsizing to a luxury apartment in Kensington Palace where he can still wave at the neighbors. We are talking about a move to what has been described as a rundown farm located on the Sandringham estate. This potential relocation represents a fundamental shift in status. It is a precipitous fall from the grace of Windsor Great Park to the muddy, cold reality of a working estate in Norfolk. The geography here tells the whole story. Marsh Farm is situated in Norfolk, approximately 7 miles west of King Charles's own retreat, Sandringham House. By moving Andrew here, the king is doing something incredibly strategic and incredibly cruel. He is keeping his brother within the royal fold geographically, yet placing him at a distinct distance. He is putting him in timeout. Windsor is the engine room of the monarchy. It is close to London. It is close to the sovereign. It is the seat of power. Norfolk is where you go to retire. It is where you go to hide. It is where the royals go to escape the public eye, not to be part of it. But let's look at the property itself, because this is where the humiliation really sets in. Royal experts are characterizing this potential new home as a shoebox farm. A shoebox. When you compare a farmhouse to the grandeur of the Royal Lodge, shoebox might feel like an exaggeration to the average person, but in royal terms, it is a prison cell. We are talking about a property with 2 reception rooms. 2. The Royal Lodge has a drawing room capable of hosting grand receptions, a formal dining room, a saloon, and halls that echo with history. Marsh Farm has a kitchen and a couple of places to sit. It implies a quiet, retired life. It implies a life of reading by the fire and walking the dogs, not entertaining dignitaries, not hosting parties, and certainly not holding court. It is a domestic space, not a palatial one. It is a home for a pensioner, not a prince. And the name Marsh Farm. It is located near the Dersingham Bog Nature Reserve. For a man who is used to the manicured perfection of Windsor Great Park with its sweeping long walk and ancient oaks, the rugged, wild, boggy reality of the Norfolk coast will be a stark, depressing change of scenery. It is wilder, it is quieter, and it is far, far more isolated. But there is a twist in this tale, a detail that suggests the move might not happen immediately, and this is where the game of chess gets dirty. An insider close to the situation has come forward with details that hint at a prolonged standoff, a war of attrition played with renovation contractors. According to this source, Prince Andrew has been told he is off to Marsh Farm. The directive seems clear, yet the condition of the property provides a significant complication, or perhaps for Andrew, a convenient excuse. The insider noted that Marsh Farm needs an awful lot of work to be done before it is habitable. This is crucial. In the world of royal real estate, renovations are rarely quick, rarely simple, and never inexpensive. If the property is currently deemed uninhabitable, if it needs rewiring, roofing, plumbing, security upgrades, this gives Prince Andrew a significant amount of leverage to delay his departure from Royal Lodge. He can sit there, arms crossed, and say, "I cannot move until it is ready." And we know how long these things take. Look at Frogmore Cottage. This could drag on for years, and Andrew knows it. He is counting on it. He is banking on the fact that he can cling to the doorframe of Royal Lodge for just a little bit longer. But why is he fighting so hard? Why is he willing to endure the public shame of this standoff? Because for Andrew, Royal Lodge is not just a house. It represents his life as a senior royal. He signed a 75-year lease on the property in 2003. He paid a premium. He spent millions of his own money on repairs. In his mind, he has paid for the right to stay. He believes he is the victim here. He believes his brother is robbing him. But the king is looking at a different ledger. The upkeep of Royal Lodge is astronomical. But the real weapon, the nuclear weapon in Charles's arsenal, is the security bill. We are talking about an estimated £3 million a year for private security. Since Andrew lost his taxpayer-funded police protection, the king has reportedly been footing this bill privately. But the reports indicate that Charles is no longer willing to write that check. This is the siege by accountants. The removal of this private security team is the king's strongest card. Without security, living in such a vast, accessible property becomes untenable for a high-profile figure like Andrew. He cannot guard the perimeter himself. He cannot patrol the 98 acres alone. If the king cuts the guards, Andrew is exposed. He is vulnerable, and he will be forced to flee to the safety of the smaller, more secure Marsh Farm. It is a brutal tactic. It is a mob tactic. Nice house you have here. Shame if something happened to the security. But wait, it gets worse. Because there is a detail in this story that everyone is missing, a detail that changes the entire complexion of this exile. While we are all looking at the muddy farm in Norfolk, some experts are looking further afield, much further. Renowned royal biographer Andrew Loney has suggested a scenario that takes the Duke far away from the damp gray skies of England entirely. Loney claims that it is most likely that Andrew will spend the majority of his time in a lavish palace in Bahrain. Yes, you heard me. Bahrain. This introduces a fascinating, shady international dimension to the story. Prince Andrew has long cultivated strong ties with the Middle East. He has friends in high places in the region, friends who don't care about Western media scandals, friends who place a high premium on personal loyalty and royal status. If he were to relocate to Bahrain, enjoying the use of a lavish palace there, it would solve several problems for the monarchy. It would remove him from the daily scrutiny of the British press. Out of sight, out of mind. It would allow him to live in the luxury to which he is accustomed, without the burden falling on the British taxpayer or the king's privy purse. In this scenario, Marsh Farm becomes merely a landing pad. It becomes a storage unit, a mailing address, a place to keep his furniture and receive his bank statements while his real life continues in a sunny private exile in the desert. It is the golden handcuffs solution. You can live like a prince, Andrew, just not here. Not where we have to look at you. It essentially makes him a ghost. And maybe that is what Charles wants. Maybe he wants his brother to simply disappear into the sands of the Middle East, never to embarrass the firm again. But we have to talk about the collateral damage in this war. We have to talk about Sarah Ferguson. The Duchess of York still lives with Prince Andrew at Royal Lodge. They are famously the happiest divorced couple in the world. She has been recovering from breast cancer and skin cancer, and the stability of her home is undoubtedly important to her recovery. A move to a rundown farm would affect her just as much as Andrew. Would she move to the Shoebox Farm? Would she find her own residence in London, finally separating their living arrangements? The small nature of Marsh Farm might not have room for the Duchess and her entourage. This move could finally split the Yorks apart for good. And what about the princesses, Beatrice and Eugenie? They grew up visiting Royal Lodge. It is their ancestral seat. There was likely an expectation that they might one day take over the lease. If their father moves to a smaller farmhouse or flees to Bahrain, their inheritance is gone. The loss of the lodge is the loss of their status. And this brings us to the most explosive part of the theory, the part that involves the Prince and Princess of Wales. Why is the king pushing so hard? Why now? Why is he so desperate to empty Royal Lodge? Speculation is rife, and I believe this to be the absolute truth, that Royal Lodge is being earmarked for William and Kate. They currently reside in Adelaide Cottage, a 4-bedroom home on the Windsor estate. It is charming, but it is small. With 3 growing children, Prince George, the future king, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, they are bursting at the seams. Royal Lodge would be the perfect, secure, appropriate residence for the heir to the throne. It is a fortress. It is grand. It fits their status. So when Andrew refuses to leave, he isn't just defying the king. He is blocking the path of the future king and queen. He is standing in the way of Kate's comfort. He is standing in the way of George's security. And do you think William is happy about that? Imagine the fury of the Prince of Wales watching his disgraced uncle squat in the mansion that should belong to Catherine. Imagine the tension at the dinner table. This is why William is reportedly backing his father's play. This is why the pressure is ramping up. It isn't just about punishment, it's about succession. It's about clearing the decks for the future. Andrew is the past. William is the future, and the past must make way. The insider verdict: this is the end. Andrew can stall. He can complain about the renovations at Marsh Farm. He can point to his lease. But he cannot fight the tide. The king controls the money, the king controls the security, and the king controls the narrative. Andrew is being sieged out by accountants and architects. It is a slow, painful death of 1,000 cuts. And the move to Marsh Farm, or the flight to Bahrain, is inevitable. He will go from a 30-room palace to a wooden-gated farm next to a bog. It is a humiliation that will define the rest of his life. But let's be honest, does he deserve any sympathy? This is a man who brought shame upon the House of Windsor. This is a man who refused to cooperate with the FBI. This is a man who paid millions to settle a civil sexual assault case. Most people in his position would be hiding in shame, grateful for a 1-bedroom flat. But Andrew demands a palace. Andrew demands security guards. The entitlement is breathtaking. It is delusional. And King Charles is finally popping that bubble. The sight of builders at Marsh Farm will be the surest sign that the Duke's time is up. We are watching a silent battle of wills played out behind the high walls of the royal estate, but the outcome is predetermined. The king always wins. Andrew will leave Royal Lodge, either in the back of a moving truck or on a plane to Bahrain. But he will leave. And when he does, the exorcism of the York scandal will be complete. I want to know what you think. Is Marsh Farm a suitable residence for the king's brother, or is it too harsh a downgrade? Is it fair to move him from the home he has lived in for decades? Or is this a necessary step for the modern monarchy? And what do you make of the Bahrain theory? Do you think he will choose exile and luxury over a modest life in Norfolk? And crucially, do you think William and Kate should get Royal Lodge? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one of them. The discussion is always fascinating. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the brutal reality of the royal real estate wars, hit that like button and share this video. And don't forget to subscribe. We are the only ones telling you the truth about the collapse of Prince Andrew. Until next time, keep your eyes on the palace.